Platonic Podcast by Barbara as Socrates, Grace as Bentham, and Miles as Kant.
On December 1st, 2016, thievery occurred in the locker room inside the gym. The alleged perpetrator stole money from a comrade's locker prior to a conversation that occurred discussing the intended use for the money. The accused claims that the victim intended to use the money to illegally buy drugs. This preconceived intention was one that included breaking many laws and tarnishing the teen's health. The accused claims that he stole the money in an effort to protect his friend from the dreary harm of drugs.
I find this situation not only intriguing, but extremely thought-provoking. This hypothetical allows us to have an abstract conversation regarding human morality. Personally, I believe that because the perpetrator stole the victim's money, he is not free. My philosophy is as follows. If one is worried about an outcome, they are not free. Additionally, I abide by the categorical imperative. I believe that one should not lie, cheat, or steal for any reason. It is our obligation as people to contribute to society and to do so by following the imperative. One of my most famous examples is, if a murderer was at your door looking for your friend who was taking refuge inside your house, you may not lie and say you do not know where your friend is. Therefore, I believe it is important to keep this in mind while reviewing this situation.
Kant. I agree that this situation is one that has to be thoroughly Kant templated. However, my philosophy is different from yours. I think that as humans, our moral compass should be guided by what we will believe. It will increase the greatest amount of happiness for the greatest amount of people.
Good day, my fellow philosophers. You can call me Socrates or the wisest man around. Your choice. I have reached comprehension of the fact that my peers were unaccepting of my questionnaire whilst in discussion. I hope to be alleviated from being scrutinized in this day and age. My philosophy is one that is heavily inveigled by the social contract, the idea that as a member of society, it is not only our obligation, but our moral duty to follow rules, accept consequences, and thoroughly eulogize what society has done for you. Please, fellow philosophers, scrutinize this very case under the influence of only your philosophy and the RTSD Student Handbook. We will be discussing the Honor Code section, which briefly evaluates stealing only. Kant, would it please you to submerge us into the depths of your philosophy?
Due to the accused stealing his friend's money, he was ultimately worried about his friend's outcome, even if he was looking out for him. Every individual is worthy of respect because we are rational beings. That money was his, and his friend should not have taken it. He should have respected him as a human being. His friend should have chosen a different route instead of compromising his friend's rights.
I think that when the friend of the victim stole the money, he was doing it mainly to maximize the happiness of both characters. Because in the end, if the friend had gone through with his plan of buying drugs, he might not have had a good outcome. He maybe could have taken a different route of stopping the drugs from being bought, but he chose a better idea by stopping the purchasing of the drugs in the first place. It will be a better outcome for the friend, so he will not be able to buy the drugs under any circumstances in the future.
Gentlemen, why, may I ask, have we only discussed your beliefs on the matter? This world I have re-entered is one engulfed in egotistical, self-centered beings. We must analyze what truly is at stake. There has been a breakage in the infrastructure of the school's policies. You must not be understanding, because once one member of society decides to set back the establishment of rules or guidelines, even an empire could be deteriorated to nothingness in the blink of an eye. As a student, the school provides for us an education, coddling, and overall immense support at the apex of our learning. Thus, it is our liability to follow these guidelines as our social contract in response to the fruitful help society has done for you. In this situation, the accused is breaking a law set by authority figures of our township. In breaking them, he must follow the social contract. accepting his consequences, and then continuing to contribute to society. Rather than claiming that he did it for his friends, he must accept his wrongdoing and pursue a more prosperous society in doing so. The felonious acts of the student must be deemed wrong, but he can still be right if he accepts his consequences. Kant, are you going to dive further into this discussion now, or still just sit at the shore surrounded by only what matters to you? Your thoughts.
Socrates, you, my friend, are suggesting that the perpetrator assumed what we would come of the situation before it occurred. I believe one should not assert an outcome of a situation prior to the unraveling. From what we are aware of, the only information the friend was given was that he was spending money on illegal substances. However, he was not 100% confident that was what he was doing. He just assumed that what he was being told was correct, which goes against his principles.
He stole his friend's money for a purpose. He knew that if he let his friend go along with his plans of buying the drugs, there was going to be a big possibility of something bad happening. To help the situation, he made the right decision by taking the money and preventing him from buying the drugs. In the end, the money was given to a good cause and his friend stayed safe. He wasn't taking the money for his own amusement. He was taking it for the well-being of his friend and trying to keep personal happiness for the future of them both.
Taking the money would be equivalent to stripping the friend of his rights. The friend had the right to do with what he desired with his own money. Because his friend stole the money, he lost the freedom to spend what was his. Even though he was planning on buying a substance that is against the law, that was still his decision and his right, and it is ultimately up to him to make the moral decision. His friend should have left the money where it was.
When stealing the money from his friend's backpack, he wasn't purposely stealing, but more looking out for his friend's future and trying to help him. He wasn't doing it to hurt him, because that's what the drugs would have done. Taking the money was a good thing, and the friend was really just looking out for his well-being and not trying to mess his plans up.
We must all note the document we are to reference, the RTSD Handbook. Although our conversations must be abstract when deliberating the actions in reference to our philosophical standpoints, it's vital to stay on task. The handbook clearly states, students shall not cheat, lie, or steal. At the dawn of our education, we are obliged to sign a paper stating that we read this student handbook and agree with it. Therefore, when he stole, he clearly broke his obligation, proving that he didn't abide by the social contract and he doesn't deserve the education the school has to offer. In contrast, in the locker room, there are signs that clearly state that the township is not responsible for anything stolen. So that shows that the township backs thievery and that they can't punish someone for thievery because they don't know where it occurred.
Hypothetical Part 2.
It is naive to assume that the thief was solely taking the money for the protection of his friend. We also need to ponder what was stolen: money, something of high value in our society. Although we like to see the best in people, it is ingenuous to surmise that everyone has good morals and follows the social contract, although it's very vital to a lush and thriving society. We must come to terms with the fact that the thief could have easily been stealing the money for his own narcissistic reasons. We must contemplate what the possible uses for the money could be and how that can affect the morality of the acts.
If, for example, the friend of the victim spent the money in a negative way, like going out to buy himself alcohol, my opinion would be different. If even though he stops his friend from buying drugs, when buying himself alcohol, he could have just as much of a negative effect as his friend. He shouldn't take the money for himself, because that wouldn't be helping anything either. But in my opinion, it wouldn't truly be the best decision to spend the money on something just as bad as the friend tried to go through with. In the sense where he wouldn't be able to maximize happiness if he makes the wrong decision by stopping his friend's transaction than starting his own.
Regardless of what the perpetrator chooses to do with the money, he still stole, disregarding the categorical imperative. Stealing is and always will be against the law. What the friend chooses to do with the money is irrelevant. It is inapplicable whether he donates or spends the money. Say a burglar steals $700,000 from someone's bank account, and spends it on him or herself. Roughly 9 out of 10 citizens would agree that the thief must be punished. However, if the robber planned on donating the stolen money and claims he is doing it for the greater good, some people would give him the benefit of the doubt. People like me would not. He broke the law. He ignored the categorical imperative, a perfect set of rules to keep our society safe and happy. The same goes for the one who stole the money in an attempt to help his friend avoid a dark future. As a drug addict, he went into his friend's locker and stole what was rightfully his. If everyone stole, lied, and cheated, our world would be complete chaos. And tell me, who wants to live in a chaotic world?
He stole the money in an attempt to help his friend. It wasn't for a bad cause. Lying, cheating, and stealing for a bad cause would, yes, create chaos in our world. But again, he did take the money with a pursuit to cause his friend pain. He took the money to keep his friend from doing something that could really hurt him in the future. Overall, do you think that if he had let his friend go along with the purchase, that the outcome would have been better? Say something happened to his friend from the drugs. Imagine the pain and guilt he would have faced. But by taking the money, he stopped it from happening and did what was overall right for both individuals.
Bentham, so far all of the points you've made are very well thought out, but I just do not understand how you can believe that no matter the situation, the outcome that makes the most people happy is correct. What if the illegal situation satisfies the most amount of people? Breaking the laws are not okay just because more people are happy. One situation that happens all too frequently is a poor mother attempts to steal food for her family. Bentham, am I correct that you would be okay with a mother stealing food? Also, what's your opinion on the matter, Socrates?
Yes, because she is there to make her whole family happy. But that is not the point that I'm trying to reach with my opinion.
Was thinking of her children, who are other members of society. However, in doing so, she must contemplate the aftershock of her actions. Because she was stealing, that means someone else had to have worked hard to create the food, and it is wrong to take from another because of your misfortune. Society gives to each other a lot. For example, there are a lot of government-provided food systems, and if she is stealing, she is dilapidating the very thing that was a sustainable food source for many other members of society.
Exactly my point. You believe that just because her whole family is happy, it is okay for her to steal. I do not believe it is right to ignore the categorical imperative. I believe the imperative may benefit the majority in the short term, but however, in the long term, they may catch up to you.
All of our opinions vary. For example, Socrates believes as long as he accepts his consequences, he is morally right. Bentham believes that as long as his intentions were to create the greatest amount of good for the greatest amount of people, then it's morally right. And Kant thinks that you must always follow the categorical imperative relating to the handbook that is not okay to steal, cheat, or lie under any circumstances.